7 terrorists emerged from the forest into the valley. Thousands of tourists had gathered there. Their peace and joy was disrupted by a volley of bullets, like a dagger into the heart of Kashmir.
So, safe to say that the probability of a full-scale kinetic war with Pakistan.
Now you're putting words in my mouth. When you are bringing in terrorists from outside who have not seen the territory, I imagine, so you can't be expecting them to come suddenly onto the scene and know where to go. Somebody has guided them along, somebody has told them where they were. There has to have been some local cooperation. That this could not have happened without a secure link from start to finish. Must not forget in a very generous mood that there are people like us, they are not. And this is a nasty, unforgivable act which deserves to be punished. The New World Order doesn't promise you peace.
So this whole China angle, what do you make of it? Namaste, sir. Welcome back to Bharat Varta again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making time on a Sunday for this.
It's great to meet you guys again.
Amazing. So, we met you last time, I think maybe around 8-9 months back.
I suppose, around that time.
Yeah. Different circumstances. We're meeting in the aftermath of perhaps the worst civilian terror attack we've seen since 26/11. 22nd, the Pahalgam attack happened.
Pulwama was troopers.
On the CRPF, yes. So, I mean, a lot has transpired after that. I mean, people are debating analysis, response, so on and so forth. What we want to do is, again, speak about certain things threadbare and try to understand it, from the perspective of the different players involved, which I think, is your specialty as well. You have a very dispassionate voice in terms of like analyzing things very rationally and looking at things for what they are.
I hope so.
No, we know, sir.
Yeah.
So, let's start with the attack itself. An attack of this sort of scale, do you think it is a mere tactical breach, or do you think there is something wrong strategically?
Even in our management of security?
Yes.
Look, when was Pulwama?
2019?
2019. And this was 2025. 6 years, roughly. Have we had any major attack between these 2 years? Then nobody says security is well done.
Yeah.
Now that there must have been some slip up somewhere.
Right.
Surely it couldn't have happened. But then that's not the end of the world.
Right.
It's a horrible incident, no doubt. I mean, civilians being killed mercilessly in that fashion on the basis of religion. So, yes, there must have been some snags. Now, that's a matter of investigation. I can't sort of be judgmental and say, this might have happened or this organization might have failed. No, we don't know. We don't even know whether all of them were from Pakistan, all of them from India, or half of them from India and the other half from Pakistan. There has to have been some local cooperation, coordination. It's part of the drill, it's part of the requirement. After all, when you are bringing in terrorists from outside, the killers, who have not seen the territory, I imagine, so you can't be expecting them to come suddenly onto the scene and know where to go.
Yeah.
Somebody has guided them along, somebody has told them where they were. I would even go as far as to think that maybe this arms were smuggled in Purley.
Okay.
And they just picked them up. Then when they cross the border. Or, that's not really material, but the point is that this could not have happened without a secure link from start to finish.
Right. Yeah.
And exit. If I imagine they've exited.
Yeah, as of today, I think there is some news about folks being held up in, Colombo and so on, connected with this. So we don't know for sure. It's still a developing story. But you bring up more than a couple of important points. One is the level of local involvement, for sure. And second, I think you made this point before through your articles as well, that when there is no terror incident, it doesn't mean that there are no terrorists, right? And I think we have seen sort of an expression of that happen. So there were talks about scaling back deployment of troops and so on. Is this like a alarm bell for something around that? I mean, that we should definitely, take this a little more seriously and not be lulled into some sort of complacency?
Definitely. You can't just be thinking of pulling our troops at this juncture, even if we had thought of this earlier, that peace has been restored, etc., and time to pull out and provide normalcy to the state. So I don't know whether this is the right time to pull out troops. And in fact, I would go to the extent of saying that stopping tourism at this juncture means victory for them. That means that, dekha, we made them run away. All the tourists have gone. Not knowing that the Kashmir economy does not depend only on tourists. It depends on the orchards, the fruit that they grow, and the saffron that they grow. It depends on all that. So it's not as if you shut down tourism, everything else is going to collapse. Tourism is part of the 2-3 month deal where tourists come and go to Pahalgam, Gulmarg, Amarnath Yatra. And the best way of restoring normalcy would be to ensure that the Amarnath Yatra takes place. Right. The state is there. The state hasn't withered away. That has to be the message at all time, particularly now. Right. And unsolicited advice to politicians, please don't play games. This is not the time. Right. This is about India, not just Kashmir. So we have to gang up together, stand together. This terror attacks is in their blood. They will continue because they have no other means of trying to keep India in check. This way they feel that, there'll be more deployment on the border, etc., etc. Therefore, the more money we get diverted from our economy. The world looks at us that, their economy is now in trouble. There's insurgency. They were flying their recce's soon after this attack, air recce's. They moved their navy around on the shores. And I think the crossfire had started on the ceasefire line. They were going to sort of pretend that we are coming. It's bad. Telling the world, look, it's bad. These chaps are going to hit us. Save me. So that was the idea. And that hasn't happened. We haven't reacted in the manner they think we should have. And they're wondering when the Prime Minister says this time they will not know what hit them. So we've got to wait and see what the Prime Minister meant by that. It may not be kinetic at all. It may be something else.
Right. One thing though, the timing of the attack. Why now? It was a time when the US Vice President and his family were here visiting India. It is also a post-tariff world right now, right? With everything that's happening around the US, China, and so on. Is there like a larger significance to the timing itself? Because, General Munir talking about those things that he did, again in very sharp language, just a week before what happened, it all can't be a coincidence, right?
No, it may not be a coincidence. Some of them may be a coincidence. This attack would have been planned quite in advance. Would have been worked out quite in advance. It is not as if they got to know that Vance is coming, so go. This might have been planned in advance. They must have recceed it and done everything required, and then you let them go. It may be to tell Vance that India is not safe, but it has not had the desired effect as they wanted. And the Munir's talk, I think, is addressed to his own people as much as to India, more to his own people, that, we have to stand together, we are different, we are Muslims, they are Hindus, Kashmir is ours, it's our lifeblood, and all so on and so forth. So, he's talking like a mullah.
Yeah.
And I've been saying for a while now that the Pakistan army is highly Islamized. It is by nature now, by behavior, by thought, become Islamized in more ways than one. So if that has happened, Munir is not adding much to the whole story. He's repeating what the guys want to hear, and he may be addressing his own people, his army, looking for an extra term. Therefore, try something in India, get it. He hopes that India would have reacted violently and gone in with troops, all guns blazing. It hasn't happened. So they're wondering what is the game they're playing. They're probably more worried now than they were before the attack.
Right.
That why are they quiet?
Right.
In the sense that the guns are not firing, except for the ceasefire line. We've not launched missiles, we've done nothing of that sort. But, we must remember also that if we do a kinetic, an attack with missiles, or they have same kind of equipment. And it's not a ragtag army. It's a pretty professional army they got there. And they got some of the latest weapons also.
Right. Plus the explicit support of China as well.
China is supporting them. Now Russia is a little ambivalent. So they can also, if we can hit 2 cities, they can hit 2 also.
Right.
And, if you throw a stone at a jeweler's shop and steal, you take away a lot. But if you hit a general provision store, you can't take too much.
Yeah. We have more to lose than them.
We have more to lose. We have to therefore be careful how we're going to do it so that we don't lose more. We don't want our economy to be sucked into all this at this juncture. It doesn't work, doesn't do us any good. We are the largest, fastest growing economies today in the world, despite everything. So we don't want to lose that. So our response has to be of that which hurts them more than it hurts us. Now, I honestly don't know what that might mean. But there are, I'm sure, wiser heads sitting in the seats of power who can decide, who have worked it out maybe in advance. Surely they would have war-gamed at some stage. What if Pakistan does this? What is our reaction going to be? Remember, Modi tried to go, he met Nawaz Sharif several times. He went across there. He thought he could find a solution. Has worked because the army doesn't want it. Yeah. Army's lifeline, bloodline is Kashmir. They're right when they say that.
Right.
Because that's where the goodies are. That's where the money comes from. It is not that you want to own Kashmir. They want the war to continue. The war brings in profits.
Right.
It fills their coffers. All the generals that are now highly endowed with wealth, where did it come from?
Right.
So if they actually annex Kashmir, this thing will stop, then the money will stop.
Right.
So it is an old game of theirs that they will continue to be like this. Plus, we must not forget in our very generous mood that they are people like us. They are not. They are not. We used to say that a long time ago, but it also ended a long time ago. In fact, probably was never there.
Right.
They're not like us. They don't behave like us. They have a faith which says that they will kill all kafirs. Kafir is you and me.
Yeah.
That the Quran says so. And Quran is immutable. So there may be some people who don't believe in that line, but it is there.
Right.
It has not been erased. That is their war cry.
And that's also what is especially different about this attack, where, they didn't kill people passively through, let's say, missiles or bullets or whatever. They were blatant about the religious affiliations and so on, right? I mean, the men were asked to drop their pants, no less, right? And then shot, right? People were asked to recite the kalma and so on. This linkage between terror and religion is something, again, that you have talked about earlier as well. You spoke about it on the podcast earlier as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think now we will finally recognize the linkage and the correction, or do you see that, we'll continue to say that terror has no religion?
I don't know. I think we are beginning to understand, because this was a cold-blooded action.
Yeah.
It was absolutely cold-blooded killing of selected people, or people they selected as they went along. So our response has to be cold-blooded, not in the heat of the moment. Because if you do that, they will react. Then we will have to react. Then we go up the escalatory ladder. Is that good? So it doesn't mean that if you're not acting today because something that happened yesterday, that we've given up.
Right.
No, it's not that. We will do it in our time of choosing. I think that's the impression I get from what has transpired in the media so far and all the discussions.
So in that sense, this was like an October 7th provocation of sorts.
Yeah. No, they have been giving us provocations in the past. It sort of slowed down after Uri. A bit. It slowed down again after Pulwama, but not for long. But we had no reaction to the series before that. We did nothing in 2006, the train bombings. We did nothing in 2008, Mumbai. So where you get an impression that, well, these chaps are never going to react. Now it has been declared that we are going to do something, and steps have been taken at the diplomatic and economic levels. That's bound to hurt Pakistan. It might hurt us a bit, but it's going to hurt them much more. And they don't have much of an economy to boast about. So it will hamper their, it will affect their market. So let's see where that goes, and I would wait a while to see what the government has in mind.
Right. So what about the broader significance? Because I think, I mentioned I've listened to multiple podcasts, and, all of our generals do talk about the fact that, hey, let's not mistake this as something that, let's say, the Pakistan people want or the people have done. Let's not mistake it as the actions of, let's say, some few misguided Kashmiris. And let's not, talk about this as an indictment on, let's say, Muslims at large. right? But the common man is angry. He's seething, right? Because he has seen that aside from people being slaughtered, like his countrymen being slaughtered, his fellow Hindu has been slaughtered very blatantly, very obviously so, right? For just, believing in a faith that his forefathers have believed in, right? So this distinction between, the actions that happened versus Kashmiris, Islam, and Pakistani people itself. Do you think that we'll be able to hold these distinctions anymore? Because right now, for a man on the streets who is not very much invested in, let's say, a lot of this highfalutin, intellectual stuff, it seems like there is a straight line between all of this.
I'm not sure whether I got you right there. You're talking about the Indian Kashmiri?
I'm talking about, like, if you look at the common man, right?
Here,
is the
India.
common man's
In
anger
India.
at, let's say, the Pakistani people, the Kashmiri people, and even perhaps an Indian Muslim, is that justified? Or do you think that, what would you say to that person? Because, he has just seen his fellow Hindu being, killed
Slaughtered,
for the
yeah.
fact that he's a Hindu.
Well, that is what they want to create, no? Fissures.
Right.
And make that the Kashmiris lose faith in the state, and the Muslim feels scared for other reasons of a Hindu reaction and so on and so forth. That's what they might want to have. Okay, Hindu-Muslim riot ho jaye kahin. Something like that happens. So we are on a tightrope in that sense. We don't want that. But like I wrote a little while ago that nothing will change if you just keep killing terrorists. You have to get to the source. The source being the Pakistan establishment. The establishment being the army. So we have to raise the cost for them.
Yeah, right now, it seems like the cost is almost nil actually, because these folks, whoever they are, they're ready to die anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So, and we go and take out these terror camps and whatnot.
They've probably been jihadized, they've been Islamized, they've been converted, they're going for a jihad.
So it's a very asymmetric thing in that sense.
It is a very asymmetric war. So we have to make the price higher for them.
Right.
Because I don't think even the Pakistani elite really bothers about what happens to the average Sindhi on the road in Sindh. If he dies, he dies.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's how it is. I think the only part of the country that really is bothered about the whole thing, in a way, is Punjab. Pakistani Punjab. The rest of them are not in it. The rest of them are not in. And the Punjab part, the elite is, again, alag se. It's the ordinary man who takes the bullet.
I don't think we understand enough the Pakistani social dynamics as well, right? You talked about the elite and, let's say, the rest of the folks. Do you think that the average Pakistani, the non-elite Pakistani, wants peace with India?
I don't think they really care. The ordinary Pakistani, the ordinary person on the street is only concerned about his daily livelihood. How many people are bothered about Kashmir here?
Yeah, we're also in Roti Kapda Makan.
We're all living in that, and they're all bothered about where the next meal is coming from, or our job, or running around every day. So it's not that every Pakistani is bothered about Kashmir. There may be a few. There may be a few who've been indoctrinated, who want to believe in it. And there may be others who just don't care.
What about the average Kashmiri? Do they want peace with, the rest of the country per se? Do they have a sense of belonging?
I see a trend that it is moving towards that. They see the difference between where they were and where we were. And they've also, many of them also seen the difference between POK and our part of Kashmir. That
Right.
there is a difference of education level, hospital level, roads, infrastructure. We've gone way ahead. And they're still in the boondocks.
And this sets them back another 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I think post, Article 370, there was a lot of good that happened, right? I mean,
Yeah.
money flowed in, investments flowed in, infrastructure happened, jobs happened, and so on and so forth. And just when we thought that, there's going to be some semblance of normalcy, lasting normalcy, this happens.
So the average Kashmiri is beginning to know the benefits of being with India. And we shouldn't let that slide away. We should pump in more, actually. It's a drain maybe on us
Right.
for some time. But we have borne it for so many years without any return, so we may as well do it now at a higher level. No?
Right. So there's no way out of it, rather than to take the people of Kashmir along, per se.
Yeah. You can't do it without the people of Kashmir.
So, do you think that there would be some benefit to, let's say, changing the demographics in Kashmir through, let's say, resettlement of, Pandits or, folks from other parts of the country? I mean, do you think that would benefit us in some sense?
Well, how many years now since the Kashmiris, Pandits have been moved out?
30 years, 80, late 80s, I think.
1990, I think.
Yeah.
25 years.
Right.
How about trying to move them back? So that's to show that Kashmir is also yours.
Yeah. So a lot of the previous attacks, the Pakistani army and establishment would come out maybe like a day after and, sort of deny this very explicitly that, hey, we have nothing to do with this and so on. So this time there was almost like a very faint sort of a denial, right? Almost like a provocation, like what we discussed, right? Almost like saying, yeah, I mean, it's something that we didn't do.
No, that's a dare to challenge us.
Okay.
What are you going to do? And their defense minister, I think, said, well, we've been cleaning America's mess for 30 years.
Yeah.
ये तो चलता है. So what does that mean?
Yeah, did you see that interview of the gentleman? I think he was talking to the BBC or one of those UK channels where he said that, yeah, we've been doing this for the US and for your country, UK as well. So.
Oh, I missed that. I think somebody told me, maybe.
Yeah, so he was fairly explicit about it.
No, that was the defense minister. He said the USA and the West.
Yeah. So how much do you think that, Asim Munir believes in this statement that he made, right? I mean, regarding the two-nation theory, the fact that we're very civilizationally different, there's nothing in common with the Hindus, and so on, right? I mean, all of that stuff. Do you think that, there's a strand that all of them believe in that sort of stuff, or, as we discussed earlier in this conversation, this is just, increasing their source of power and their relevance in the grand scheme of things, and so he will say whatever needs to be said for that. How much of this is performative and how much of this is ideological?
No, I think Munir and others believe in this.
It's quite a contrast, right? I mean, you see some of these Pakistani army officers having a good time, right? And, the kids are settled in the US or UK and, living the Western life, per se. Following in the footsteps of Jinnah as well.
Some of it is convenience.
Right.
But there are quite a few who believe that this is the way.
It's a very duplicitous sort of posturing.
Well, all societies have that, all systems have that. But my own impression is that more and more believe that Islam is the path. But doesn't stop them from hoarding money and taking it out and putting their kids at school there.
Right.
Where they will later turn around and say that I shall only have the Sharia where I live. And he'll join those Sharia campaigners that are already there. They'll only add to that.
I think in the last discussion as well, we had talked about the greater enemy, and the greater enemy for a while, let's say since Doklam happened, somehow everyone has this consensus that China is the greater enemy, right, for us in considering our national security and so on. And China has deep strategic interests as well and uses Pakistan as an attack dog. There is this theory that perhaps, China was reacting to the tariffs and the fact that, maybe some manufacturing, some investments could be diverted to India rather than China in this post-tariff world to sort of knock us back, right? And all these different incentives lined up to make Pahalgam happen. So this whole China angle, what do you make of it? Is it like a wild goose chase? It's a fictional theory, or there's some credence to it?
Well, it's a very plausible argument that they might have tutored the Pakis to do it. But what worries me more is that the Russian ambivalence on this. Otherwise, whatever else the Americans might say, they may have talked loudly, but they're always going to balance us.
Right.
They always say, chalo, chalo, come on, be friends again, shake hands, get on with life. That, and the Chinese will always be aggressive. They want to push their line without themselves getting involved. If the Americans can have proxies, China can have its proxy. It's a major power playing games in its region. So in that sense, it makes sense that they would push the Pakistanis into this. But we need to have a little more proof whether this is actually so. It could be. Like I said, it's a plausible,
right,
quite plausible, the whole thing.
And what do you make of the Russian ambivalence? Is it to sort of signal that you are cozying up with the US? I'm important too. Is it something like that?
It's that you can't take me for granted. You're buying French aircraft, you're buying American equipment, and all you do to me is to come and shake hands. So Putin is sending us a message.
Right.
To my mind, that's what it is.
We often talk about this whole multipolar world and so on and so forth. Just the overlap of interests and values and so on and so forth, it must be so complicated dealing with each country. Right?
Very complicated. The old system of two superpowers very well arranged.
Either this camp or that camp.
This or that. And that's it. But now there's so many poles in the whole game. There is China, which is emerging power. America seems to be declining. Russia wants to be resurgent. The Islamic world is in a kind of a mess, but spreading. Now you have more presence, more visible presence, even in Texas, America, United States. You have them in Canada. You have them in all over Europe. And the rate of growth of your Muslim population, Islamic population in Europe is much higher than the rise of Christianity. Or the curve is much flatter, the Christian curve, and this one is sharper.
Do you think that there should be some kind of reformations like what happened with the Christianity in Islam?
The Quran doesn't allow it. It's immutable. Christianity had.
But they also transitioned from this Old Testament sort of a
that's what Christianity. They had it.
Yeah.
हमारा तो in Hindus का तो सभी चलता है. All the time we have reformations and changes. But they don't. They can't. It'll be blasphemy. It will be apostasy.
So it's coming to a head now, right? Because it feels like they've shown their cards.
Who?
Let's say the Islamic world in that sense. And one very interesting thing that's happening is, I mean, if you look at, like, let's say the sound bites from Saudi, right? I mean, they seem more moderate. I never thought we'll get to that day.
Actually, parts of Saudi and the Gulf Emirates are worried. They don't want too much of Islamization.
Yeah.
I mean, they're letting a temple be built there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is an indication of how they want to change.
That's the path forward.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm not sure if Iran would ever have that or will have that. Pakistan doesn't seem to be, it's out on a limb in that sense. It's become more Islamic than the rest of the Islamic world as on date.
It's so tied to its reason for existence itself. So,
yeah. Well, it can't change its geography. No, they had 2 states. Now they got 2 states, Bangladesh and Pakistan, both very, very Islamic.
Yeah.
Both our neighbors.
Yeah.
Add China to it, and you got a plate full.
One thing that I don't know, I mean, I still can't like wrap my head around is, you saw what happened in 71 with Pakistan and Bangladesh, right? And how, Bengali Muslims per se were slaughtered in droves along with their Hindu brethren as well, right?
Operation Searchlight.
Right.
Yeah.
And still now you have a situation where,
It's the other way. It's turning out Hindus. The Bengali Muslim was quite fanatical even in the beginning. If you in August 46, you had the Direct Action Day in Calcutta, started by Hussain Surawardi to demand a separate Pakistan. And they slaughtered Hindus. Bengali Muslim was quite radical even then. It was a change of circumstance perhaps when...
Pitted against the Punjabi Muslims.
No, when Sheikh Mujibur Rahman fell out with the West Pakistan government after the elections of 1970.
Right.
That Bhutto wanted to be the PM, although he didn't have the majority. It was Sheikh Mujib's party, which had Awami League, had the maximum seats. That's when they fell out. And we led to a situation where Bangladesh came into being. So it seems that others have worked on the Bengali Muslim all these years, steadily worked on them. And we've come to this situation today that Sheikh Hasina had to leave. Although technically she hasn't handed over charge.
Right.
So, and you got a man in charge who's been very close to the Americans.
Yeah. US puppet.
Yeah. Although the main gainer today looks as if it's China which is gaining. Funnily, maybe they're playing a game together. Nobody, I think I might have mentioned last time also, I don't think many countries in the West are interested in a genuine resurgence of India as a huge global economy. What happens to them? What happens to their resources and their markets? So there will be opposition to us.
People in power don't want to cede power.
No, they don't want to cede power. Don't want to cede power.
People or countries.
Huh?
People or countries.
Yeah. People or countries. Countries are just an amalgam of people.
What do you make of the US reaction? I mean, initial days, you saw like, very explicit, very sort of a terse response to everything that happened, even from some of the personal handles of folks like Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, of course, he was here in India, Donald Trump, and so on and so forth. But then, I mean, off late, the sound bites we hear are a little more tempered.
Yeah.
Right? Saying that, these guys will have to work out their issues and whatnot.
Maybe the Pakistanis went up there and promised something to them. God knows. On interests on American interests in Iran or wherever. I don't know.
Can it be that transactional? I mean, like,
the
US has now put in about 20 years worth of things into Pakistan since the war, quote unquote, war on terror, right? They still don't see the folly of their endeavors.
I don't know. Maybe sometimes you don't want to see it. Sometimes you don't want to see the writing on the wall. You feel it's not true. It can't be. I'm so good. How can they be like this?
Or is it that it perhaps serves the deep state and a certain elite, a section of the elite, and they don't mind things the way they are. They don't mind the status quo as well.
No, the deep state would certainly love the status quo. War is profitable, peace isn't. It leads to a lot of second round, third round profits. So it's always desirable to keep others fighting.
So in terms of a strategic response itself, so the attack happened on 22nd. We're speaking on the 4th, roughly a couple of weeks since then. And a lot of folks have been surprised that we haven't done anything since, right? We haven't done a Balakot or like the surgical strikes or whatever. We have done a few other things though. I mean, we have ended the Indus Water Treaty. Obviously, I mean, we sent back all the Pakistanis from here and we stopped other sort of diplomatic relations and so on. Are you satisfied with whatever we have responded so far? And, what do you think we'll do next?
I don't know what we'll do next, but I think at some stage, once we've worked out everything, once we've done some calculations of how the ladder will work, there has to be kinetic action.
We can't escape that.
I don't think so. Otherwise, what's the difference?
In the form of a full-fledged war, or I mean, do you think
I don't know. I'm not saying anything on that. I'm not. This is my hunch. What they do is for them to decide. They must have done their wargaming. I don't have any information. I'm saying from the perspective of an ordinary Indian who says that if you don't do that, you'll be seen as having done nothing.
You can't be perceived as...
Yeah, what have you done to avenge this? So what you have to do is to react in cold anger, not in hot anger. Take your time.
Cold, calculated,
strategic
action. So, safe to say that it may not be 100%, but probably getting there, that the probability of a full-scale kinetic war with Pakistan.
No, you're putting words in my mouth. I don't take them.
Wow. I mean, so I was in school when Kargil happened, and it was bad enough to read about these things in the papers. It's going to be much worse in the social media world that we live in, right? Because rest assured, I mean, all of the information warfare.
As it is, we're going berserk.
Yeah.
All sorts of things are coming out, all sorts of allegations. And it's going to be much worse this time.
Yeah. We've seen with Russia, Ukraine, or, Israel, Hamas as well, the level of warfare that happens in the information world itself, right? I mean, all the kind of stories and the spins that often come out. So we should kind of brace ourselves for something similar here.
And both Israel and Russia thought that this war would be over in a few days. It has gone on and on. And the Ukraine war has gone on for 3 years now.
Yeah, 21.
And this one has gone on
almost 4 actually.
Yeah. And this one, gone for 2 years?
2 years.
23.
Yeah.
2.5 years. So that's how long they are. Can your economy sustain that? He loses nothing, he has nothing to lose there. His budget is minuscule. He doesn't have money to last more than 6 days. So he's got nothing to lose. He hopes that once this starts, sympathetic Westerners will pour in money, give them weapons, give them whatever they need, and they'll carry on.
Often we hear about this nuclear word that keeps coming up, right? I mean, the Pakistanis often say this with pride that, hey, I mean, we also have this nuclear option, and we won't, we won't hesitate to use that option as well. I mean, do you think it's time we call that bluff, or I mean, do you think that we should be careful about it?
You have to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. I think it's more bravado than anything else. I mean, they know what will happen if there is a nuclear exchange.
Yeah, that is total annihilation.
I mean, then they're history.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's what they want, it's a sad thing. But I don't think, fingers crossed, we'll get to that. We said the same thing in Kargil time also.
Right.
In fact, the nuclear deterrent is the best deterrent. It doesn't lead countries to go beyond a point.
Right. So in that sense, that whole mutually assured destruction has kept people in check, countries in check.
Yeah. So this might apply to us as much as it did to the Americans and the Soviets.
But do you think that they might try to escalate this beyond Kashmir? Do you think that we should probably expect something in our metros and so on?
They've done it in the past. They've done it in Bombay more than once. They've done it in Delhi. They've done it in Bangalore. They've done it so many places. That they will keep trying. So they have got a particular mindset. And it works like that. They have no other occupation. They're not able to get along with the Afghans, with the Pathans, with the TTP, with the Baloch. But this one they want to get engaged in. I mean, it's the most absurd time for them to get involved in this, logically speaking.
Yeah, the economy is down.
They're down in the dumps. They can't feed their own people.
Yeah.
I've heard many of these chaps saying on one of these TV, those little clips that come on, Pakistan, हमारे पास है ही क्या? जीतेगा कौन? वही जीतेंगे जी. Only the Indians will win. Kashmir किसका है? Oh, it's Indian because all their troops are there. You don't have any troops there. That's one of the arguments. One Pakistani on the street was giving his comments to a surprised TV news person. So there is that little layer that is there. Was cynical about it. It's the intellectual, middle class, upper class who want to keep their hearth. Therefore, they side up to the army. Army is the state, not the Prime Minister, not Bilawal Bhutto, not Nawaz Sharif. Nobody. They don't matter.
Right.
We have to understand that, and we have to understand that it is Islamic. And you have to understand what that means. All of them may not be like the Baloch are probably not like that.
What do you think is happening there? I mean, we've seen that there's, again, a lot of action in that area as well.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of Baloch activity there. And I think they killed off about a large number of soldiers the other day.
Yeah.
2 or 3 days ago, yeah.
There was an incident on the train as well.
They become very effective lately.
Yeah.
The TTP and the Afghan situation is no better.
Do you think we've been, I don't know, tacitly sort of supporting the Baloch cause? Or?
No, I don't think anything about it. I have no idea.
Right.
I have no idea at all.
But it's kind of a weird situation for Pakistan, right? I mean, because you have the the Taliban, the Baloch rebels.
The Taliban were never going to be with them once their war was over. Because the Pakistanis want the Durand line. The Taliban will never accept it. For them, there is no Durand line. Their border is up to the Indus. So that's their claim. The Western Bank is the boundary between India and Pakistan, India and Afghanistan. Their mind. Or they can keep the rest of the Punjab and live happily.
Is there anything that will draw the Pakistani establishment to the table? Anything at all? Like, for example, let's say this IWT, right? It seems like critical from a Pakistani perspective, right? Do you think that some sort of hunger, famine, starvation caused by that could draw them to the table without, let's say, shots being fired? Or do you think they're just going to keep escalating tensions like a Scotch Day sort of a policy?
If they have good sense, then that'll bring them to the table.
But you seem not very optimistic of it.
I'm not sure whether they have good sense. I think they have good sense for trying to fight us all the time. Losing all the time and saying that we won.
Yeah.
So
every time I see the generals seem to have more and more medals on.
Yeah. Which
on their uniform.
I think the dawn heading of the 16th of December was they won the war. And that's the day Niazi was signing the surrender.
Right.
This goes on in Pakistan. It's an unreal world. It's a hodgepodge gathering together of different groups of people who never felt they were together. And they thought Islam would unite, but it hasn't really united them. It hasn't brought them together. The Pakhtun is still Pakhtun. The Baloch is busy on his own. The Sindhi has his own thing. The only person who seems to think more and more about Kashmir is the Punjabi Muslim.
Right.
Nobody else bothers. So you got a jigsaw puzzle of a country put together. It hasn't worked. After Jinnah died, who was their leader? And Liaquat Ali went. They didn't have a leader. At least we had Nehru continuing. There was a continuity for a number of years and he remained there. There were other people around him, all inexperienced in the business of political and general management. So the army stepped in very early. And since then, whether they are in power or out of power, they rule. Nobody can take any decision on foreign policy, particularly India, without the army say so. They can claim whatever they can, but that is the fact. Any matter of security, even China or Afghanistan, they decide. America, they decide. So, and it suits the Americans to deal with the army, they get their decisions through quickly. हमारे यहाँ will go to Ministry of Finance, maybe Defense, MEA, before we take a decision to buy American equipment or not.
It's fascinating actually. In India, Punjab and Tamil Nadu may be culturally quite different, but there's that binding Sanatan Dharma that sort of unites us all. But in Pakistan, like Islam was supposed to be the uniting factor there between, let's say, the Baloch, the Bengali, and the Pashtun, the Punjabi, and so on, but hasn't quite played out as intended.
And why is it that they have 57 Islamic countries if Islam is binding? And they say Hindu is so divisive, but we have only one country. We have so many languages, we have so many states, but we are one. The Europeans have the same thing. They have the same religion, different languages, they're for different countries. Many of the countries are the size of prestige oasis, I think. So that's what it is.
What do you make of the media coverage of this whole thing that has happened
I
since
think there's
22nd?
too much drama, too much high drama.
Too much? We're still inviting Pakistani generals on, Pakistani
I can't
army folks
understand.
and
I
so
don't
on
understand the logic of it.
on TV shows.
You ban them on one side and then you bring them on the show.
To give sound bites.
Sound bites, and they talk what they couldn't say on their Twitter, but they can say it here.
Yeah.
Otherwise also it's too shrill. Too shrill and too hyperbolic, and sort of almost as if they want to have the hot war. That doesn't help.
And also that the government should inform every strategic step.
Yes, हमसे पूछ के करो. Ask us what you want to do. We are the best judges of your policies.
Yeah.
And so you get all sorts of experts also.
Okay. So looking ahead, what do you hope will happen? What is your wish?
My wish is to tell the Pakistanis, for God's sake, you lead your life, let us lead our lives. Yeah? Otherwise we can squeeze you. So you make up your mind. You can't change location,
Right.
but you can learn to live with India. And we also have to learn to live with Pakistan.
Right.
Not go out of our way to be as if making friends with them is necessary. I can live with a neighbor whom I don't like. He leads his life, I lead my life. We don't get into each other's way.
There was a sense over the last couple of years, especially, when we started talking about, let's say, Viksit Bharat and 10 trillion economy and so on and so forth, that Pakistan would be relegated to, let's say, priority number 10 or 15 or something of that sort, right? And it's almost like they've come back to the top three
They want to
priorities
come
now.
back. No, they want to come back. They're feeling neglected.
Right.
Nobody's bothering about us. We must make ourselves felt or observed or noticed. The only thing they can do is to do tamasha like this. And this is a nasty, unforgivable act which deserves to be punished. How they do it is for the wise people in the government to decide. Everybody has to be in it together. The corporate world, the free world, you and I. It's my country, I won't let it happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a sense of, there was a huge resentment post the Mumbai attacks especially.
Yeah.
I think that got stifled. That was latent. And it's still latent in some sense. And maybe it found expression post, let's say, post Uri, post Balakot, little bit. But that's just sort of waiting for a full-scale retribution and to bring Pakistan to account. But we must also not forget, some of this more strategic imperatives.
And also, these incidents, you do Balakot, you do Uri, it has a curve of acceptability, then it sort of fades away. You lose traction, you lose interest. Ho gaya, khatam kahani. That same thing that chap also relies on. That, okay, I'll put it up for 2, 3, 4 months and then everybody will forget, move on further. So you got to keep that pressure.
Do you think there's something that we can learn from what Rajapaksa did with the LTTE? We don't talk about the LTTE anymore.
Well, that was the same country.
And that was a civil war as well.
But that was the same country, no?
Yeah.
Within their own country. This is we're talking about.
No, but
another.
the problem doesn't exist anymore, basically.
Yeah. We can't go across and do that.
Not to the same degree. Yeah.
That's not something we should be thinking of. That won't happen. That's impossible. To think of, I don't know, novel ways of squeezing Pakistan. And this upper riparian we must play to the fullest.
Hopefully, we'll put more unknown gunmen to work.
Yeah, we'll call them gunmen.
I'm tempted to ask about some of the broader other things that are happening in the world. So maybe one or two questions on that. Russia, Ukraine. We hope that post-Trump it would come to a swift end. Right? Hasn't happened. Israel, Hamas again continuing. Some of these wars seem to be perennial wars, right? Do you think that what will it take to sort of end these wars?
In case of Ukraine, Zelensky has to surrender, give up. And Putin must give him a way out.
But he seems to have made a deal with Trump on the minerals and so on.
Yeah, but apparently Zelensky himself is not happy with that. So unless he is convinced, the fighting will continue. And he has to be given a face saver. Hamas and Israel, if one group says that I will annihilate you totally, then how is the other chap ever going to stop? The Israelis seem to be working on a plan to make Syria safe for themselves so that they can target Iran in case of need. After all, they put an Al-Qaeda representative as the head of administration in Syria. Imagine the cynicism of the system.
Most remarkable turn of events, right? Yeah. The guy has a bounty on his head and
suddenly he's wearing a tie and a suit. Just trimmed his beard and he's sitting there. And looking very uncomfortable in this Western dress. This is how major powers play for the game, self-interest. And Turkey and Israel don't get along, I think. I mean, they might have tactical arrangements, but Turkey wants to be the caliph.
Yeah. They seem to be helping Pakistan as well.
Yeah. So there are so many wheels within wheels there that will there ever be any... There will never be peace. The New World Order doesn't promise you peace.
So
they're all landing up in Europe, demanding Sharia, demanding their way of life. And they say, we've come to you for the goodies of your country, but I live my own way. So they're going to be there. They are now. How are you going to solve that? You've actually been arresting people who were opposed to them, which is a strange thing.
Yeah.
They had those grooming gangs, and those who objected to that were punished, arrested, or ignored. And it's gone on for years. Because you wanted to portray that you're not anti-Muslim.
So one of the responses to this has been that India has expelled all of the Pakistanis living in India, right? Yeah. So, and I didn't know there were so many of Pakistanis.
How come they were allowed to live? Yeah. They're born here.
Yeah.
Or they're born there, they come here, they get into college, they get, they're admitted, they get Aadhaar card, PAN card, everything. How does it happen?
Yeah, that's a serious fault, right?
There is such a lot of connivance, and this must be happening on the Bangladesh border also.
Yeah.
So how many thousands and thousands we've got?
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised that, I think few soldiers married to...
A soldier married to a Pakistani woman. How did they discover it now?
Right.
He couldn't have volunteered. So, maybe there are more.
Yeah, and living for quite a while as well.
Yeah. 10, 20 years, and what is it? The woman is here, the husband is the other side. The kids are, some kids are born here, some kids are born there. Maybe he has another wife there. And he doesn't want to take them, or he's at the border, but they won't let them go through. I don't know how it all happened.
There were kind of fervent appeals to not stop the medical tourism at least, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that, I mean, they can come and
So
see our
medical tourism,
cardiologists and so on and so
bacha is
forth.
born here, gets Indian nationality, I suppose. And then it goes on
Yeah.
with slack. That's the least.
Corruption.
Or design.
By design.
Or design. Change the demography. So it is probably that. Or where do they come from? Karachi, Sindh, Punjab, where? So it's a reflection on us more than them.
I think this social cohesion, not even at a world level, right? I mean, at individual communities, countries, and so on, seems to be breaking.
You know, social cohesion and all these things work when you're powerful and rich. Once the cookie begins to crumble, the
It's
parts
hard to
fall
hold it
out.
together.
The parts fall out. And then you have a problem. So here you have major powers quite on the decline. And there's nothing in place. Will China be the next one?
In that sense, this is a very transitionary time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of churning happening, and
Oh,
hopefully
big churn.
another 5, 10, 15 years later, I mean, we might settle on a new normal, per se.
Yeah. It'll happen in your time.
No, sir, you will be around as well. Very much hope that. So, yeah, I mean, one can only hope for peace, I suppose, while also being rational and level-headed about the things that play out in front of us. Yeah.
You can only hope. But it's difficult. Too many vested interests, too many cross interests. And, you know, we have similarity of interest for the same thing. So you become competitors. Then that competition becomes into enmity. That's how it is going on. And the kind of stories we hear about the United States these days, what's going on, inner stories, I don't know which one to believe, which one not to believe.
Yeah.
Huge stories, huge scandals, scams. The deep state ne ye kiya, deep state did this, they did that. Goes on and on and on. Best thing to do is to watch IPL in the evening and forget the world.
Okay, as an RCB fan, I can actually advocate for that this season. So, boys are finally doing well after 17 years.
Yeah,
So
it took a
touch wood, I
long
mean, I
time.
don't want to jinx it or something. So,
They won last night, no?
yeah, we won. We won versus CSK, no less.
Yeah,
So,
CSK को तो पीट कर रखा हुआ है. चलो.
right.
So that's it.
All right. Thank you so much again, sir. I mean, we discussed a variety of things, and again,
Tried to make sense out of it, which doesn't seem to happen.
no, I mean, I think we did the best we could, I suppose, and it's always great hearing your views as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, you seem to have a way to get to the core of things rather
you.
dispassionately in that sense. So, thank you again for being on Bharat Varta, and hope to talk to you again and again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming all the way.
Thank you so much.